Get free tech advice for your business from O2 Gurus. Search O2 Business for more.
Hey guys, welcome to BTech. It's Basil here and I'm joined by Holly from Gadget. So Gadget's an awesome site that covers technology and a whole bunch of other lifestyle stuff. Holly's also a female, which is awesome because it adds something new to this channel, a female perspective on this, the Huawei Honor 7. New flagship type device from Honor. Just had a hands-on with it today. Starting off with the design, what do you think, Holly?
I mean, it's pretty standard. It doesn't look massively dissimilar to the Honor 6 Plus.
Except for the fact it's all metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, same kind of design language.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's quite recognisable as an Honor device. I think the finish on the back is quite nice. The sandblasted.
Yeah. So this is a 5.2 inch full HD display, metal body, but it has the same kind of flat sides that Honor 6 had before, like Holly was saying. It feels quite good for the price. So this is a £250 smartphone.
Yeah, it's pretty weighty.
Yeah, it's weighty. It feels as expensive as it needs to. I'm blown away by the price.
Definitely. This is so cheap for what it is. The fact that it's got a fingerprint sensor on the back and all the extra stuff they're throwing in.
Exactly. So talking around the design and the key ports, on the back below the camera is that fingerprint sensor, and it's a larger one than was on the Mate 7 and more accurate from my experience. We've had a day with it today. You've also got standard buttons, power, volume rocker, USB connector at the base, infrared blaster at the top. That's cool.
That's pretty good.
TV remote control on a phone in this price point, and your favourite thing.
And the smart buttons. This is quite exciting. So this is a hardware button on the left side of the phone. You can program it, so you can program it to bring up different apps depending on what you do. So you can do one tap. I've set mine up to do one tap for Twitter. So essentially what I've got here is a hardware Twitter button, which is living the dream for me. And then you can set it to do a different app if you double tap. So I've set that to Facebook. And then if you do a long press, you can have another one again. And I've set that to Maps.
You can set it for anything, like Holly said, it's customizable, and that's what's so beautiful about it. You can tell Huawei's really thought out of the box here, because the fingerprint scan is also gesture-centric. So rather than just have a tap the fingerprint scanner to wake up the phone, which actually works, which is super cool, you can also slide down and it pulls down the notifications tray. You can slide up, and if you've activated it, activates multitasking. You can long press and it takes you home. And I did all that stuff without even looking at the screen, and it is intuitive. It feels like it's in the perfect place.
Yeah, I think this is one of those devices where once you've got used to it, when you go back to another phone that doesn't have it, you're going to be like, oh, I really missed that.
For sure.
And also we were saying, it's kind of a shame that you don't have left and right swiping, just because, I mean, that would be an extra feature to have on it, but also we thought that would be great fun for Tinder.
Well, third-party app support. I mean, web browsing by scrolling, by pulling up and down. Tinder, swiping left and right. It's just like, it sounds a bit stupid, but like Holly said, if someone had that, they'd really care about this whole experience, and they'd be Huawei Honor advocates.
Definitely, that would be a cool thing to have. And speaking of Tinder, there's quite a nice feature on this where if you you pinch out, it has a hidden apps menu. So for example, the example they gave us was that if you have work apps that you kind of don't want on your home screen, you can hide them in here. I put Tinder in there because
apps, yeah,
exactly, because anything that you don't want to be immediately available, it's quite a nice transition as well.
Exactly, and that's a really awesome answer to Huawei Emotion UI's worst feature, the lack of the application tray. So there's a lot in Huawei Emotion UI that's super iOS or iPhone centric. You can swipe down from a home screen to activate a universal search, which is actually quite useful, but there's no applications tray to make it super iOS-y. This at least gives you somewhere to stow the applications you don't want to see on your home screens on a regular basis.
Definitely. Or you can install Google Now Launcher.
Also, what's cool about this is the camera setup. So you've got an 8 megapixel front camera, and that has a soft light. So it's not quite a flash, but it's going to even things out a little bit. And the rear camera is 20 megapixels. It's the same one that's found on the Moto X Play and the Moto X Style. So it's a new Sony sensor that we haven't seen on many devices. No optical image stabilization.
It does have the sapphire crystal
Sapphire
lens
crystal
cover as well,
glass
which is always nice to see.
for a lot of protection.
The extra durability there.
And the shooting modes are really similar to the Huawei P8. So you can do stuff like light trails, and had a quick play with it. Like any first impression, we can't really talk about the camera quality too much. We'll have to get it off here and compare it against other devices before we do.
True, but there's also, there's some interesting stuff in there with filters. So for example, there's a feature where it kind of learns from the sorts of filters that you use and apparently creates ones that, again, we haven't really had much of a look at this, but it is in there. There's a food filter.
There is a food
which we tried out
filter.
earlier that works really, really well. Silky
Exactly.
water thing, all of that stuff. It's quite fun.
You can have up to a 30-second shutter speed, which is going to give you crazy blur. But you want to make sure you get this thing on a tripod, especially without that optical image stabilization. In addition, it can also remember your face. So your face selfie, perfect. But then if you're in a group shot and it isn't even a selfie, it'll flatter your features the way it remembers it's flattened your features set by you in the past. Just so bonkers. I just don't even want to talk about it.
I'm looking forward to playing with that.
All right, so as far as other multimedia things go, like I said, 5.2-inch full HD display, 424 pixels per inch. So that's as sharp as the Sony Xperia Z3 Plus, sharper than the iPhone 6 Plus as well, which is awesome. IPS screen. I used it outdoors a bit, not as bright as I'd maybe like it to be.
No, it's quite glossy as well, so you've got
very glossy,
quite a lot
lots
of reflection.
Fingerprints, but at the same time, 249 for 250 pounds. Super happy with it if I picked it up. What's also awesome is it has a really powerful processor.
Yes.
So this is the most powerful processor Huawei's whacked in a smartphone, and ironically it's in a £250 one, so it should be able to play any games.
Yeah, definitely, that's always good to see. And the battery as well is pretty fantastic, especially at this price point.
3,100 milliamps. So that's bigger capacity than the iPhone 6 Plus, bigger capacity than the Sony Xperia Z3 Plus. Just loads and loads of phones. This absolutely wipes the floor with spec-wise.
It's massive, and it has fast charging as well, which is quite nice to see.
Yeah.
So, the fast charger apparently doesn't come with the phone, so you have to buy that separately.
For sure.
But apparently it's in a 30-minute charge, it's up to 50%.
Yeah. What's also amazing is you've got up to Cat 6 LTE here in the UK, so it's got the fastest possible internet that you're going to want from it. Can't complain about this phone, at least on first impression.
Yeah, definitely. I guess probably the biggest downside for me is Emotion UI. I'm not a huge fan. It's kind of ugly, and it's one of those ones that changes stuff about Android that I don't think really needs to be changed, but
I agree.
you can tweak it.
But what's amazing now is the Emotion UI has the added advantage of all those cool functions that we were talking about.
Yeah, and the home screen thing with the 3D is pretty cool as well.
Yeah, so there's a cool transition, but now we've kind of gotten to the stage just like TouchWiz and like some of the features around S Pens people like. Emotion UI is getting cool stuff like that gesture that you wouldn't have if you didn't have Emotion UI.
Yeah, true.
So I agree with you, but it's become less annoying with this phone specifically than it was historically.
Definitely.
Yeah, like I said, I really want to get one in for review so that we can say affirmatively stuff about the camera and realistic real-world battery life usage and stuff like that. But ultimately, I think it's safe to say we're both impressed.
Very, very, very impressed.
Yeah.
This is pretty amazing from one.
High five. So that's been a quick summary of the Huawei Honor 7. If you've got any questions about it, just file them in the comments section below. Make sure you check out Holly's site, Gadget. And of course, if you like BTech, subscribe to the channel. That's exactly how you're going to stay on top of everything we do. Thanks for watching.
The Honor 7 is just coming to the UK. It's been around in China for a while. It's a pretty sweet phone for the price. £249 gets you a 5.2-inch screen, all metal body. Really respectable spec sheet. 20 megapixel rear camera, 8 megapixel front camera, an octa-core processor, 3 gig of RAM, a 3100 milliamp battery. Well, I've just practically told you everything about it, but let's go into a little bit more detail. Like I said, you've got a 5.2-inch full HD display taking center stage. Above it's an 8 megapixel camera. You've also got a camera flash, which is interesting. On the right hand side is where you can see the volume rocker and a really nicely recessed power button. Down at the base, micro USB connector and grills. Left side, it's a smart launch button. So this quick launch button is active